Hello, everybody. Drasko here from 10knorm.com, where my main focus is to help guide heart-centered entrepreneurs to transcend all the blind spots that keep them from thinking, feeling, acting, and authentically marketing so they can normalize their own version of 10K months. And today's segment is a little bit different than we normally do. It is actually an expert talk segment where I bring in an expert who's going to go diving deep, in this instance, all about the 10K aspect of our business and lives, and basically explore that topic outside of what I just normally provide on the podcast. So for today's guests, we have Millen Livis, who is an international holistic financial independence mentor. She's also a best-selling author, investor, and an entrepreneur, just to sprinkle it in there. And her story is absolutely great. I'm going to link everything into the show notes. So highly recommend everybody go and read the full story. But as an overall synopsis, so she's actually the graduate of the acclaimed Wharton Business School. She holds a master's degree in physics. She's certified NLP practitioner, certified instant miracle energy healer, and she combines her traditional and holistic education to help professional and entrepreneurial women become financially independent, help them retire early so that they can enjoy more choices, more freedom without having to worry about money, right up the alley of what we do here. She does this by using the millionaire method. Her time
actually it's sorry, yeah. It's a millionaire. I just wanted to make sure you pronounce it.
Yes, the millionaire method, which, yeah, it's her time-tested holistic system for creating financial independence. And now she, lives her talk and has been financially independent for over 10 years, and basically splits her time between the south of France and South Florida. So yeah, I mean, that is quite the introduction. So welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here. And how are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me, Drasko. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and to your audience. Thank you.
Absolutely. The pleasure is all mine, because I was reading about your story on your website and just kind of getting a feel for who you are. And, I'll kind of give the bits that I remember that kind of stood out for me, and I'd love for you to dive into it. But for me, your story was defined by people telling you what you can and cannot do, pressures of conformity of who you should be, what roles are appropriate for women, what you are allowed to do or aren't allowed to do based off of nothing related to your merit. And at every single instance, you always said, no, I'm going to do this thing. And even despite two major failures that I think a lot of our listeners can appreciate, you always pivoted and found your way towards your truth. So those are the themes that stood out for me, but I'd love for you to fill in the details with your actual story.
Yeah, I actually developed amazing resilience just from going through this challenging times in life that started with the birth of my daughter. That was very challenging because it was a medical mistake, and basically I was told that she would not survive. And some close family members were saying you're too young to raise a developmentally challenging child. And I said, watch me. And basically if you read my story, I did all I could at I was 23 years old, having a really sick child on my hands, and doctor said nothing we can do. And I was stubborn enough and had agreement with God that he will help me. God will help me to save this baby. And it happened. To going through challenging time growing up in the Soviet Union and being discriminated left and right, and then coming to the United States, not speaking the language. And even though I was educated well and had good experience, when you don't have ability to communicate, who cares, right? So The beginning was very, very humble. I have to say, I remember working as a florist assistant for $4.50 per hour, because that was the only job I could find to support my family. And from there, I self-taught English. Within 1 year, I was speaking well enough to be hired by Merrill Lynch as an IT consultant. So that's how I started. And then I climbed the corporate ladder for years and years, worked for major Wall Street companies, and finally had money and had a beautiful house and had a beautiful car. And it seemed like I was living my American dream, but inside that was not the case. I was deeply unhappy on different levels. My marriage was not working. My then husband was working during the day full-time. He was also IT consultant for Wall Street company, but then at night he was building software company with his friends. So pretty much he was never home. So I was raising a child by myself, driving to work from home to New York City. It was about 1.5 hours one-way commute. And, was cooking, was basically doing everything that every woman supposed to do in a house. And it was crazy. And at some point, I felt so empty inside that I remember clearly the moment I was sitting in my office with a beautiful view from my window, looking at the computer screen and saying, do you see yourself living like that for the next 10, 20 years? Because the job, I just lost meaning. I was doing what I had to do. It was not hard, but it was just like a living on autopilot in many ways. Tennis parties, pool parties, but very superficial kind of life style, so to speak. And so when I ask myself this question, do you see yourself living like that for another 10 to 20 years? The answer was screaming no. And that's when I said, you've got to do something. And so the first thing that I've done, my daughter went to college, and I said, that's the time for me to walk out of this marriage. Financially comfortable, but not really loving relationship, right? So I left my then husband and rented a small apartment in Hoboken, New Jersey, across the river from downtown Manhattan, and started my single life. And I kind of felt that my parachute will open right away. I felt like I was so courageous. I like went against my family, like my sister, my mom. They were like really saying, are you crazy? What are you doing? Like he's not beating you up. He's not drinking. He's not cheating. Like, what are you doing? Like, if that's enough, So basically, again, I was going by my intuition and by what feels right to me versus what other people think I should do. So then I said, I really want to change something about my work life as well. And because I had no idea what to do, the first thing that came to mind, maybe I should just go to one of the best colleges in the country, and I will figure out what to do next. That's what happens when you don't know what you really want, right? So you just basically throw the spaghetti and see what will happen. And so my manager said, why don't you go to Wharton Business School? It's a great school. He graduated from the Wharton Business School. So I was in my early 40s, and I was so concerned that, they will say, oh, maybe you're too old, or maybe you speak with the accent. So just in case, I applied to 5 business schools. And to my surprise, I was accepted to all 5. So then I had a problem choosing. And of course, I had to choose the most expensive one, the most prestigious one, whatever. Like at this time, I was so not clear about who I am and what I want, that I was sometimes going by social norms of what is right for you. So anyway, so I went to the Wharton Business School, graduated with my prestigious MBA degree, and then I was like, what's now? I don't want to go back to corporate. And everybody again, like, you know, family members, now you have this golden degree, you have to go back to corporate. What are you thinking about? And I was like, well, that's a good question. What am I thinking about? That was the first time when I actually took a pause and looked at my life, at my wants and my values. And I asked myself, what is it that's really, really important to you? What is your values? What are your desires? And what came to mind when I actually made time to think about this, what came to mind was freedom. Freedom was my top core value, my top desire. And then I said, okay, so freedom, but how? And what came back was financial independence. You cannot be free without building or becoming financially independent. So you don't stay in a relationship that you don't want to stay in for too long because you're afraid to be on your own. You don't work for the boss that you don't really support his suggestions and tells you when to have lunch and when you have to work during weekends. I didn't want that. I wanted to live my life on my terms once again. So financial independence. Next question, how? Again, the answer that came, you have to have multiple sources of income. You cannot rely just on one income. And so I said, okay, I am already investing in the stock market because I learned this when I was working on Wall Street, but it was not enough for me to have a life of financial independence. So what I realized that I started doing some research, I realized that most people who are financially independent and have multiple sources of income, they have investments in real estate. And at this time, I had no knowledge about real estate investment at all. So I always start with the fundamentals. So I have to really know what I'm doing. So I was flying around the country, meeting this best real estate investors I could find, studying with them, learning from them. And then I started my real estate investment company. I invited business partners who knew me, who believed in me, and they invested their money. And I built a team and we started investing in different states. And the beginning was great until 2008 happened. And so we were under. And my business partners basically started saying, we want out, we want out. And I said, I'm sorry, I just can't sell properties right now. We're upside down, just not possible. But even though I said it to them inside, I felt really bad because I felt like, they trusted me, they put their money in and, I should be able to give it back. And so I started kind of sliding into depression and feeling stuck and feeling lost for many reasons. I ran out of my money because I was living on my savings. I had to let go of my team. And at some point, I was driving to see my real estate client. And I got into a car accident, my fault. And I injured my neck and didn't have health insurance because in the States, we don't have universal health insurance. So I was in enormous physical pain, and emotionally I felt completely broken. I felt like I'm such a failure. And financially I was broke because I got to the point that I had trouble paying my rent. So life really put me in a very challenging situation. And it was a moment in my life when I was like, you know what, I better just end it. I just can't continue like that. I felt that I wasted my my talents, my experience, the opportunities that were given me by the universe. I wasted this, and I literally felt that failure was written on my forehead. So I was avoiding my classmates, etc. It was the darkest night of my soul, I would say. And by the grace of God, one day I was walking on the street and met my neighbor. We started talking, and she detected something. And she suggested that I talk to this guy. She didn't even explain to me who he is. She said, just talk to him. So he called me, and he turned out to be a life coach. And I started talking to him, and things that he said clicked, because I kept saying, I'm such a failure, I'm such a failure. And he said, you're not a failure. Failure is not a person. Failure is an event, an experience that has the beginning and the end. And I was like, so it will end? He said, absolutely, it will end without you being part of it. And I was like, oh my God, I suddenly started seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And he said, I think you have to work with me. And I was like, I can't afford you, because I was looking at what I had at this time, which was not much, right? And I couldn't imagine that I would invest in working with this person, because I felt that I was literally broke. And when I told him that I can't afford him, he said, oh, my darling, you cannot afford not to work with me. And I jumped, and he was right. I started feeling better. I started eating again, sleeping again. And within a few years, I became financially independent, because I made really good investments during this time. And yeah, so that was, I just, sometimes going back to this time, it's hard to believe how low I managed to allow myself to go down this spiral. And so after I became financially independent, I was like, okay, I don't need to really live in New Jersey anymore, because I'm location independent. So I moved to Florida. Eventually, I built a house by the ocean there, 3 minutes walk to the ocean, South Florida. And then I said, I just feel literally pregnant with information that I accumulated during my journey. It was such a drastic experiences, so I really wanted to express this information somehow. I never thought that I'm an author, or I wanted to be an author, but I started writing. It was just intuitively, I started writing. And then I shared this writing with a friend, and she said, you have to publish this. And that's how my first book was born. And the name was A Shift Toward Purpose, Secrets to an Amazing Career. 2015, I published it, and it became a bestseller. I self-published it. So then the next, I started writing about how to become financially independent. And I published my second book in 2016. It was, the name was A Shift Toward Abundance. Actually, I have it here. A Shift Toward Abundance, Secrets to Financial Freedom. And it also became financially independent, bestseller. And then my friends were thinking like, oh, now she will just continue writing books, etc. And that's not what I wanted. I was like, okay, people read books, but they don't act. I'm not interested in superficial impact. So I said, I want to work with real people. I want to work particularly with women who may be afraid about their financial future. Maybe they in a situation similar to where I was, when they just don't see that it's possible for them at all to get out of the financial hole. So, and that's how I feel that purpose found me. My purpose found me. It's ironic, because when I was working on Wall Street, when I wanted to change my career, I was looking for different opportunities where I will really feel that that's what I meant to do. So I was considering fashion design. I went to Italy. One woman wanted to partner with me, so we went to Italy to look at different designs, and then I came back and was like, doesn't feel like it doesn't land on me. It's not me. I like fashion. I like fashion design, but it doesn't mean that it has to be your life work. Then a friend had a very successful computer school in Chicago. So I went to Chicago because I was like, maybe I can do that. So again, I was just basically testing and looking for purpose for me. And I couldn't find anything. And I was like, I'm looking for my purpose. Where is my purpose? And when I stopped looking, when I was basically just experiencing life as it was meant for me to experience, that's when my purpose found me.
Wow. So is your next, whoops. Are you able to, okay. Got some technical difficulties here. I was going to say, is your next project to make a movie about your life, right? Like there's so many things going on and so many things to unpack. I feel like a movie.
I didn't share yet my love story, because my love story is quite unusual as well. It's like ups and downs basically, because I met my then boyfriend when I was playing tennis on vacation in Martinique. I went there with my girlfriend. So, and we just met, and he happened to be from France, and we just liked each other. And then we said goodbye, and I thought that was it. And then the guy started flying from France to the States several times a month. And then one time he was stopped and put into jail, because they felt that, like, if he's flying that often, he must be working there. And so he was deported from the States. And that's when I had to make the decision, because I didn't want to remarry again. That's when I had to make the decision whether I want to marry or just say goodbye to him, because that was the only way for us to be together again. So I called him and proposed to him, and I flew to France, and we got married in France, and we didn't have a place to live. And that's when we bought really rundown villa in the south of France, and we didn't have money to renovate it. So we started renovating by ourselves, and we only had enough for down payment. That's all we had at this time. So we started renovating by ourselves, and now it's like a really, really gorgeous place with a view on the Mediterranean coast, and in a great place, and we enjoyed it. We enjoy it really very much. So that's my other story. And it's funny that you mentioned movie, because you're not the only one. I heard it a few times.
Exactly, because I was going to say, now it's definitely, you got the romantic comedy aspect to it, you know, like you got that piece you just covered, you got the whole arc of, you know, struggle to success. I mean, you know, it definitely sounds like a movie to me. So thank you very much for sharing that, because I think there's so much there for whoever is listening. They can pick up on, you know, different aspects of your story, because you've lived so much. And then okay, there's a bunch of different places where I would like to take this and just ask you questions. One of them is near the end, that when you talked about your purpose, because so often, and this both goes in my own life and in my client's life, that semblance, like you talked about the depression and like, I don't know what's next, and I'm looking for this thing, right? I went to business school because that was the thing that I was supposed to do. I never actually asked myself, who is it that I am? What am I supposed to do? How do I authentically show up in the work that I do? And even in my own businesses, that oftentimes got masked by just doing what I should do. Like I should have this marketing thing. I should have this funnel. I should have this program arranged in this way. And so seldom do we take a step back to look at, okay, like, what is it that I want? And my question to you would be, like, you had taken a step back and figured out aspects of that, but then it seems like it led you down this path where, okay, then my purpose found me. I didn't actually find it. So for you, what is the distinction in your mind and your experience between this is what I want, this is how I want to live versus what is my purpose and it finding me?
It's a great question, actually. I believe that when we want something, it's meant for us to experience. So our dreams don't happen randomly. It's something that, like, for example, some people love to have a plane, right? They want to be pilots, so maybe just enjoy having private plane. It was never my desire. Some people want to have a yacht, never my desire, right? So we all have very unique dreams and desires for the most part. And it's because from our experiences, from our character, we have different, I call them end goals. So we have means goals. I want to have $100,000 or 1 million or 10 million, whatever. But then the end, it's not the end goal. It's like, why do you want to have this money, right? So we have these end goals. But you know what? I also believe that we have a soul. Actually, when we don't have a soul, we are a soul. Each of us is a soul that has a body. So our souls have a certain intention for this lifetime. And sometimes your desire does not really reflect the intention of your soul. I don't know if you follow me. I'm trying to explain something that is kind of
You can get as low as you like. That's totally
okay,
fine.
all right, okay, thank you. I needed this comment from you. So basically, I feel that like we sometimes we want something to happen, but if it's not in the best interest of our soul, it will not happen. So it's not a failure because your path that was chosen by your soul is different. Like I wanted to have this real estate investment company with these business partners, whatever, right? And I had to go through this divine crisis because at that time, which I didn't mention, at that time, I had no idea about spiritual principles. I was not raised as a religious person. I was not spiritual at all. So I had to go through this very challenging experience to open my mind and open my heart to something that is bigger than me. And during this challenging time, because I didn't have anyone else by my side, I was just me, myself, and I intuitively turned to God. I intuitively turned to higher intelligence or intelligent love that I call it now, intuitively. So I feel that sometimes we need some major pattern interrupt for us to wake up and see really who we are and how amazing life is and how amazing the gift of life is, etc., etc. Because I don't know what else could shake me up so badly that I will open my heart, because I was very corporate. I was hard worker. Like I was, trained as a scientist. I was thinking if then. So I was not really, I didn't have awareness that I have now about what is possible for me, for other people. And that's why one of my most pronounced strengths right now is to see potential in other people and help them realize this potential. Because before, it's like I was only seen at the level of physical world, physical experience, physical plane. And now with everything that I do, and I do a lot of learning and personal practices that help me to expand my awareness, and I have several spiritual mentors and etc. So it helps me to see things beyond what can be seen by the eyes, right? And yeah, so that's why there is not always alignment between what we have and what our soul meant for us to experience.
Absolutely. And what I really like about that is it reminds me of this sentiment where oftentimes the things that we want, so the car, the plane, the house, the whatever physical thing, it is the catalyst for us to step into the version of ourselves that can manifest those things. Like, it's almost not, I think it's when people talk about it's the journey, not the destination, right? It's that house that I want opens me up to expand to who it is that I'm capable of being in order to manifest it. And then that is the actual, like, kind of soul expression of that piece. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when you were mentioning. So I was just curious, is that encapsulate what you were trying to say, or not?
Yes, and I would go even a little bit further. I believe that as we evolve, as our awareness evolves, as our spiritual awareness evolves, we go from defining success by what we have to defining success but by what we do. And finally, when we are wiser and probably older, we define success by who we become. And it's who we become that basically determines our experiences on this physical plane. Because our destiny is not defined by what we have right now, how much money we have in the account, what kind of house we have at the moment. Because, like, for example, in my case, I didn't have money on my account. I didn't have house. I was renting tiny rundown apartment. Like, if I only could look around and imagine what is possible for me by what I had at this time, I would never imagine that I would have a life that I have right now. But because our destiny is determined by our character much more than by what we have or even by what we do. That's why anything is possible as long as you really work on your personality. And there is this expression, you can see without what you have within. So that's why it's so important to really work on your beliefs, on your habits, on your choices and your decisions. Just expand as a person while you're getting some practical skills. I'm very down-to-earth person. I'm very practical. That's why I teach practical skills, investing and money management and all of this stuff. But at the same time, I also know that the personality, like, I can talk to someone, and just by the way person behaves, person reacts versus responding to situations, etc., I can say, you know, what if she would not change, or if she or he will not change, what kind of life is this person can experience just by the perception of the character of this person. But the good news is that we can change it. Like, I used to be very fearful. Like, money was a big block for me in terms of what I thought is possible for me. I was raised with the notion that money is hard to get, that you have to work very, very hard, that money is scarce. All of this stuff was in my head. And what is interesting, that when I was still living in my beautiful house with my then husband and had a very well-paid job, I started feeling that one day I may be homeless, that I may not be able to pay my rent. It was my mind, my ego, that was running the programs that were installed when I was probably much younger. And I would notice that, but I was not equipped to handle that. So I let it expand and expand and expand. And guess what happened? When I was living in this small, tiny, rundown apartment, there were a couple of months when I couldn't pay my rent, and I was like, I knew it will happen. That's how we create our reality, literally, right? So we have to be very, very aware of what we focus on. I learned that what is important is to focus on what works in your life. Feel gratitude. Really have clear intention. What is it that you want to create in your life? And then feel what I call elevated emotions, excitement, appreciation, love, gratitude, like all the positive emotions, we can joy, happiness about this life that is awaiting for us, right? And that's how it happens, because our thoughts have electrical charge and our emotions have magnetic charge. So we literally, when we create this high frequency resonance with the dream life that we want to have, when we feel grateful, when we feel optimistic, when we feel excited, etc., we are much closer to what we want to experience. And the worst thing that we can do in this situation, kind of to break this process, is to feel attached and say, well, it was supposed to be happening like last year. Last year I was supposed to be financially independent, and I still have to work at this job where I still building my business. So the attachment to the outcome is one of the very common killers of manifestation. So I'm kind of jumping all over the place. I hope you don't mind, because I just speak what comes. Just want to share.
Oh no, absolutely. This is perfect. And I apologize. I don't know what the echo is all about. I don't know if you heard it on your side, but I guess that's how it was meant to be. No, actually, I love all of those topics because they come up so often, both in the coaching that I do. It's certainly come up quite a bit in my own life. And what I would like to ask you to get into a little bit more of the specifics there, because to some degree, for everybody that's listening to this, they will have done some kind of personal development work, and everything that you've said, they've heard in other forms, they've heard other people explain their version of it, they've read it in a book, they've seen it on YouTube. Like we're all kind of aware of the general premise of what you just said, and we'll nod our heads, we'll say, yep, I understand, that makes sense. But then we go out and we live our day-to-day, moment-to-moment existence, and it becomes very hard to practice those things. So whether that might be, I am caught in those cycles where the momentum is kind of pushing me into a hole, right? Like you mentioned, the depression, etc. And even if it's a milder version of that, if I'm in a situation where I am trying to create my own 10K norm, and all I see in front of me is obstacles, because you mentioned practices, right? And you mentioned pattern interrupt. So what are some things that you would suggest, or you coach your clients to do the pattern interrupt, to kind of pause the momentum of let's just say the negativity or the contrast, and shift towards the higher states that you just mentioned?
From personal experience and from experience of my clients, I see that sometimes it's very important to allow and let go and surrender instead of just pushing and working harder and pushing and working harder. So we trained to work harder and push and come from a place of force. And every force has a counter force. So knowing that sometimes, yes, we need to work, we need to, in order to receive money, we need to exchange money for the value that we offer to others. So you cannot just meditate and expect that things will happen, right? Because action is part of this evolvement in this physical existence. But knowing that challenges that you experience were meant to help you grow. We grow the most when we go through challenging times, and challenges are unavoidable. We all experience them, but growth is optional. Some people go through challenging time and then they don't learn the lesson, and they go from one problem to another problem to another problem. Other people actually pay attention, because every failure is a feedback. So you pay attention what works, what doesn't work. You maybe pause, reassess, like if we talk about business, you pause and reassess and think, well, maybe something needs to be adjusted. Like when I started my business, I didn't want to have private clients. I didn't want to do one-on-one, because I was like, I don't have much time. I have to help as many people as I can, group coaching right away. And I didn't know that businesses have stages. Business evolution has stages, that you should not jump, I shouldn't say should, but it's probably not the optimal way to jump into group programs when you don't have audience, when you don't have a proven program to offer, or training to offer. So, and I was pushing and pushing and pushing until I stopped. And I looked and it's like, it's not working. So I reanalyzed and I said, well, maybe I should try. Actually, I started working with a coach, frankly. And she suggested that I look at private coaching one-on-one. And as soon as I offered one-on-one coaching, I got clients right away. So it's almost like these people were waiting for me. And honestly, I think it was just the right energetic frequency that was like resonating with these people. So you see, it was a course correction that I chose to do after basically trying something that doesn't work. And I course corrected, and business took off from there. So the worst thing we can do is to run enthusiastically in the wrong direction. So sometimes it's very important to really pay attention to what is working, what is not working, why it's not working, and what can be done to adjust this. So I don't know if I answered your question, Tommy, because...
No, you definitely did. Because what came out for me was like, let reality give you the feedback. Like, don't judge ahead of time. So oftentimes what happens is like, we'll get stuck in these loops of like, is it the right thing? Is it perfect? And then that goes into these doom loops, right? Without even taking the action, right? So then reality is giving you the feedback. Well, nothing's happening. So, it's our invitation to make something happen and see what happens. But then the flip side, which I think is you elaborated brilliantly, is when you do allow something to happen, you do help create it, you do push it forward, you do have an experience of action, then it's like you said at the beginning, right? It's not that you failed, it's that the thing failed. But that's reality's feedback saying, hey, don't do this, or like I said, running in the wrong direction. You can cover a lot of distance and still not be moving closer to what you actually want. So I think that's a brilliantly particular way to say, that there's nothing wrong with things not working out to how you expect, but it is our own kind of centeredness to, okay, take a step back. Okay, if this is not working, is it because I'm not clear on what it is that I want? Or is it just, I am clear, but this thing I'm pushing isn't actually moving me towards
And Drasko, I just want, if I can expand on this, because now I remember what I wanted to say, didn't mention. There are moments in life when we really must ask for support, because stubborn people like myself, I felt like I'm smart, I'm experienced, I can do it, I'm strong-willed, I can do it, I handle worst thing. And that's how I got to the very low point in my life when I felt that was the end of it. So when we are part of the frame, we don't see what's there. It took this guy who was, not part of my experience in life to see that I basically I just needed to reframe of how I define success, what is possible for me, what life is about, who I am. Because at that time I was defining myself, my identity was defined by my career, but by my family, by my house, blah, blah, blah. But then I lost it all and I lost my identity. And that led to the crisis. So I really needed someone from the outside to help me to reframe my perceptions. And many people, when they are in challenging situation, whether it's depression or maybe business failure or financial challenge, they feel that I will just kind of buckle up, stop spending, and I will be okay. But like I said, it's not only the physical things that need to be adjusted. It's the mental, it's emotional, it's spiritual things that need to be expanded. Most people contract. And when you contract, you get the momentum, that contraction goes even further, even deeper. So, and what you need the expansion. You need to see bigger picture. You need to see what works in your life, because there is always, always, always something that you can feel grateful for. Always. You can, like I teach my clients sometimes to do this mirror exercise. You look in the mirror when you feel like deeply depressed, and you look at your eyes and you say, oh my God, I'm grateful for my eyes because I can see. I'm grateful for my ears because I can hear. Not every person has this, right? Very basic things. When you don't have anything else to appreciate in your life, there is always something that you can appreciate in yourself, because not everyone has what you have. So, and I know that sometimes it's not easy to just feel better because someone else is worse than you are. But this habit, and it's a habit that can be developed, to practice seeing what works in your life. That's one of the practices that I do. Practice to focus on what works, because as you know, what we focus on expands. Then also I use meditation. I meditate every day, and I basically get myself into the alternate states of consciousness. That's when we can create the vision that we have for ourselves, or for our life, for our loved ones, etc. So that's another thing that I do. Journaling is very powerful as well. And it's interesting because I recommend my clients, and I do this as well, to have two journals, like to have a journal of hard times. And like that's when you really feel like up to here and you need to get it out. So instead of just saying, no, I cannot feel that way. I should just be positive. But that's not what you feel. It's not your reality. Just write it down in this journal of hard times or something like that, right? And then have another journal, maybe journal of miracles, a journal of your best rich life. And that's where you describe what kind of life you want to experience, what kind of identity you've got to step into to experience this life. You can maybe have models, modeling other people in your life, that certain character traits that you like, and that's kind of develop this character traits in you, right? If you, like a simple example, if you want a person who is in a good physical shape to date you, most likely you need to yourself to be in a good physical shape, right? Or if you want someone who I don't know, in a good financial standing, most likely you've got to put your financial life together, right? Because we sometimes want something that is opposite of what we want. And actually, it's a good idea when you appreciate someone who is confident because you lack confidence. It's a good idea to develop this character trait in yourself. So you could vibrate, so to speak, at the same frequency with this person, and the attraction happens. The same with everything. The same with money. You know, like money likes to hang out with people who take care of it, right? So there are people who just feel that they make a lot of money, so they can just spend everything that they have every month or more. And that's their choice. You know, I'm not judging anyone. It's your choice. But if you really want to become financially independent, there are certain criteria that you need to follow in order to get yourself in a place where you have more savings than your lifestyle requires every month. And don't put these savings under your bed or in a 401k, honestly. Just see what quality assets you can invest them in, so your money starts working for you. Because it's great to build a business, but as long as you have to work in your business in order to support your lifestyle, in a way, it's just another job. So you've got to always think about, number one, multiple sources of income, and number two, how you can have passive sources, because some people have 5 jobs, but they hardly can pay their bills. So it's not about having multiple jobs, it's having streams of income that become passive for you over time. So if you build in a business, think like what kind of offers you can make that you will not involve your time. So you will not continue changing time for money like when you were working at the job.
Love it. So much goodness there. And you know, I want to be respectful of your time. But you know, I think the best way to kind of encapsulate what I got out of this call is really, you know, it really just comes down to choice. Like what are the experiences that you wish to have? What is the kind of life that you wish to have? And then that is the choice that spirals the kind of smaller or resulting or branching choices that really get you to move towards whatever the next step is, whether it is, you know, I agree with you, coaches need coaches as well, or it's I need to improve my literacy, or like financial literacy, or I need to improve my mindset, or how I show up, or what my daily practice is. I think it ultimately has its power in the choice and also in the observation of, okay, what are my results and how am I contributing to it? So yeah, I mean, I loved everything that went down in this conversation. I think there's a lot of actionable aspects to it. So to close it off, I just want to give you the floor to, you know, tell everybody, you know, who is it that you ideally, you know, work with, that, and what's the best way for them to contact you, and we'll include all of that in the show notes.
Thank you for this opportunity to share. So usually I work with career-driven people, mostly women, but if it's a private setting, I can work with managers. When I had group programs, you remember I was stubborn and only offered group programs. I didn't want to put men and women in the same group, because men and women, interestingly enough, have different drivers for building wealth, for becoming financially independent. So motivational drivers are very different. But now that I work privately, I can totally work with career-driven men or women who basically want to work, get in a state when they work because they want to, not because they have to. And that's what financial independence affords us, right? So we never worry about money again. And so I know that we're all different. We're all at the different phases in life and in different financial situations right now. So I would like to, because I have different trainings, I would like to offer your listeners a gift, which is a 30 minutes complimentary consultation with me, Never Worry About Money Again, where we will map out your quickest pathway to financial independence, because it's unique for everybody. For some people, it could be 5,000. For other people, it could be 50,000 a month, passive. So that's what I want to offer. And at this consultation, we will see what would be your next best step. And I will tell you if this is something that I could support you with, or maybe someone else, and I will refer you. I will definitely give you some kind of resources at the end of this session, whether it would be a book or a course or something else. So to schedule this consultation, go to speakwithmillen.com, speakwithmillen.com, Millen with double L, and schedule this consultation as soon as possible, because I have very limited spots there, and I have to open, because people email me that you offer this consultation, but there are no spots there. So I have to make sure that I make it available for people. So I look forward to speaking with you. And usually for those people who sign up, I also offer Beginner Investor Toolkit, which is my toolkit where I describe 8 elements of strategic investing, because many people either trade or they just invest because someone told them hot tip, and they bought Bitcoin when it was at the top, like recently 63,000, I think, and they sold it when it dropped because they got scared when it was 30,000. So it's like you have to learn how to have a strategic approach to investing, and that's what I'm about. I'm an active investor, and I want to teach everyone how to make your money work for you.
Love it. That is a very generous offer, and thank you for offering that. So yeah, we'll include all of those details with the links, but definitely for anybody listening, get in on that. That is an absolute gift. So all in all, thank you very much for sharing your wisdom, making time for us. I know with the time difference, it's a little bit late for you, so I appreciate you showing up. And yeah, thank you very much for coming on board.
Thank you so much, Drasko. Really enjoy this conversation, and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So we'll see everybody on the next one.